In what state? Where am I right now
Yeah,
physically?
yeah.
Yeah, in California, Northern Cal.
No, that's not good enough.
Menlo Park.
Okay. Then I think about Stacks. I think about,
My house. That's my second home.
yeah, yeah. And then that bookstore,
Kepler.
Kepler's. Kepler's.
Kepler's. And where are you?
It's called Walnut Creek, California.
Oh, get out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, don't have as
NorCal.
I don't have as many points of reference. But hey, let me do this. First of all, Mark, welcome to the look back. Marc Canter, world famous software guy. But let me set the framework here, the context, if I may.
Yeah.
When I entered the Mac world, not as a user, because I was an early adopter, but not as a user, but as a journalist and publisher, harken back Macintosh News, Mac User, the magazine. Um, it wasn't long till we ran into this figure, larger than life, named Marc Canter. Super smart on tech, was a developer, a mindset, surely, but could also talk the biz, could also talk, marketing, could also talk all those other things that would be in the publishing world, because you essentially were a publisher. Remember we
Yeah.
called software guys publishers?
Well,
Um,
we actually were an author, and we
yeah,
were represented by the William Morris Agency.
yeah,
And we negotiated these deals with Hayden Software,
yeah.
and we were negotiating with Microsoft. But then eventually we realized, well, we had to be a publisher ourselves. And so, in
Publisher.
fact, we did a distribution deal with Broderbund,
There you
where
go.
they did the back end distribution, dealing with the purchases, but we were officially a publishing company.
Would it be just hilarious to walk into one of the millennial guys doing their own thing and say, "Oh, you're a publisher." Be like, "What?"
What's a publisher? Yeah.
Publisher. So I'll spin forward because I know you've got a phenomenal background too that goes way back, but I'll spin forward into this, stream that I'm laying out to Macromind and Macromedia. And it's like I was thinking about it. You're the face, the name, and the brand that was multimedia. At a time it was just getting started. And I don't know if you invented the word, but you invented a class of product that I just associate with
Yeah.
media.
So the term we were using was creativity tools.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell two quick stories. I think it was 1985
Yeah.
Macworld. And an engineer from DuPont walks up to me with a floppy disk and he says, "Dude, you changed my life." And I said, "Well, how?" He says, "Well, I would have had to wait 4 months and it would have cost me $75,000 to get access to this large computer graphics machine. It was a symbolics machine which ran Lisp." Okay.
Oh,
So that
okay.
I could animate this fiber molecule. So I could pitch this to my bosses of why we need to spend, it was like 20, $30 million on a development effort, right? But at the time, the product was $100. Your $100 software enabled me to do it. And he holds up this disc. And at the time, I was thinking that our product was to create video games. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You mean there's an application for interactive animation beyond just video games?
Isn't that funny? A user brings that to you and
Oh
says,
yeah, and dude, I'm
"Here's the
telling you
key.
this.
I'm
The
giving you the
secret
key."
of Macromind was our users, dude. They're the ones who invented business presentations, scientific visualizations, product simulations,
Oh,
educational software, video. It was all our users. We were at
talk
the
about
right
your
place at the right time.
amazing upsell and cross sell, all from your
Yeah.
user
And
interactions.
it's about community.
I know you were always close to that, and I
Yeah.
mean that was a Mac developer trait anyway, to
Yes.
hug your users and the user group thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was doing it, man. I was at Boston Computer Group, Berkeley Computer Group, around the world, wherever I would go.
remember the L.A. Hollywood thing too was big.
Dude, I was totally there. I mean, all right, so I'll tell you a quick Hollywood story. So there's a producer named Ivan Reitman,
Oh, sure,
very
famous.
famous guy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm out at his house in Malibu, right? It's sunset. He's holding up his glass of woody Chardonnay.
Okay.
And he holds it up to the light of the sunset. He looks through the light coming through the Chardonnay. Goes, there's a lot we could do with this technology. And so he created this animatic of a stagecoach. This is like 85. This is still black and white Macintosh. Okay. This stagecoach comes rumbling into town. There's people on the stagecoach. It was the most amazingly alive thing. He invested real money to hire real animators. And we looked at this animation and it lasted like 10 seconds. And we went, yeah, this product could do anything. And that was like, wow.
Another user story. I'm flashing back to me going down to Mac Music Fest in LA.
Yeah.
Remember something
and
like
they'd
that?
hold them at the studios, on the studio lot.
I think I was on Paramount Lot doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Funny.
Because we had this other thing called MusicWorks. It was the first music product for the Macintosh.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, the whole notion of that community was really kind of amazing when you think about there was no multimedia, there was no animation, there was nothing.
Well, so animation was available starting in the early 80s. I would go to SIGGRAPH. I would see what these giant computers could do. Okay. And the dream was, wow, just like Bill Gates was saying that the future of business is like all this thing called a PC and a PC on every desktop. My dream was that the animation studios, which were costing millions of dollars, that you could do that on your desktop. And so that was what we did. So we were the low end animation solution because you could do things on the high end, but it would cost you all this money.
No, it was an amazing run. I remember, I don't know if you remember, we did one of our Mac User Awards events, and me and Fred and Andy Gore, we created this whole thing using Macromedia to kick off our event and with music and sound. And it was my first experience of really developing, It wasn't. I wasn't developing an app. I was developing
a presentation.
It was. Everyone was like, "How did you do that?" I'm thinking, "Who did you give it to?" Oh, 2 editors and a.
Did you ever go to the Stuart Alsop
demo
conferences?
Sure.
Yeah. So we did one. This is what really put us over the top. It's right when the Color Mac came out.
Yeah.
We had one of a talking John Scully head.
Yeah.
And it basically his jaw just moved up. It was like South Park, it was very funky. But the fact that it was a picture of John Scully and he was voiced
kind of like an emoji or an emoji.
No, it was us. We did the whole thing. We did the whole thing in VideoWorks at the time. It was still VideoWorks 2.
There was a lot you did to evangelize the brand, and I can't say enough about how you were really always out there with the brand. But you were big with the whole developer community. Like there was a real community. And then you also worked the ins and outs of Apple. I forget, was it Gassé or Kawasaki, Scully? Because then they decide to anoint
Nagel.
Right, and then they decide to anoint somebody and bring you up on stage. Give me a little color from back there too.
Well, first of all, anytime Guy Kawasaki would snap his fingers, I'd have to jump. Okay? So we were in Chicago.
Right.
So between 84 and 87, once a month, there's some event. Guy Kawasaki wants us there. So we would do that. And then when we got our venture capital funding,
Kleiner Perkins,
we moved there. And then Kleiner says, well, where do you want to live in the valley? There's this place called Menlo Park, Fuck that shit. We're city boys. We got black leather jackets. We're going to live up in the city. So we were basically the first company to be in Soma.
Yes. Thank you for that too. It was fun to go up and visit you guys.
Yeah. And then that I was with John Anderson at Loma Prieta, right? So that, right? So the last meeting he had was with me. And then he went downstairs and the building fell on him.
Yeah.
So that's all part of the lore of this industry now.
Yeah, I mean,
those are the good news. Now, I'm not sure. Are we a all positive vibe zone?
It was hard.
We get to tell negative things.
You could tell whatever you want, but you were living in it. Listen, it was fun and it was dynamic for sure, but easy. Tons of money. No, it was a small market that you were evangelizing. Yeah. You were created out of thin air. Like I said, there was no multimedia.
Yeah, it was completely from scratch. And
what was the forget? A couple million. And it was really kind of that day where it was an early adopter, education, okay, businesses starting to come
Little
on.
demos here and there.
And
Yeah.
then there was a PageMaker app, and then there was a
That's where the money was
yeah,
in, and that's who we recruited as our CEO,
that's right.
a guy
What was
named
the
John
page?
Skull.
Right, John Skull, great
Who
guy.
and we used to say the only difference between Skull and Scully was 2 letters and 5 billion in sales.
And a little bit of personal net worth difference.
Yeah. So all right. So let me just quickly get a couple of stories out of the way that are negative. Our relationship with Apple was tumultuous at best. Apple has become well known as one of the worst, most evil companies on the planet. They got a 30% VIG on everything. They get 30% of everything, right? That's the Apple App Store.
Right, sure.
So, yeah, they went behind our back and stole our rights to our software. We had to threaten them to get it back. They didn't tell us about QuickTime. So they went and told Adobe, and John Skull is putting all our VC money into something called Media Maker.
Oh, right.
And that was based upon analog VCRs. And then they released QuickTime and this thing called Premiere. Turns out that John Skull was hated by Apple.
Oh,
And
God.
they were all so happy to get rid of him.
Oh, geez.
And they so fucked us with not telling us about QuickTime. Okay. And Guy Kawasaki was just a living nightmare to deal with. So I won't even go there. I'm trying to be positive in my life. And
well, but you can write. You could still write the book. It is.
oh, this will be several books. But
I
dude,
think
the way we do it today,
yeah,
it's called a biopic TV series.
Oh,
Think
by the way,
Anthony Bourdain meets *Halt and Catch Fire*. Okay, that's and who's going to play me, dude?
That's a great question.
Seth Rogen.
Seth? No,
he hasn't agreed to it yet, but this is my target.
No, I got to get.
Well, it's because there's another theme here, dude. What's the theme that connects me and Seth Rogen?
Are we talking weed? The green?
That's why they kicked me out of Macromedia.
Oh, really?
I was officially kicked out because they couldn't go public with a dope smoking CEO. I wasn't even the CEO, I was the chairman. But they couldn't be like nowadays, they make a big deal about taking microdosing, and acid. But in those days, smoking reefer was as bad as being a pedophile.
Microdosing is kind of condoned at this point, isn't it? It's like,
dude, I know the guy Justin Sue that was kicked out of a company for that. So
I don't want
anyway.
And I don't want to get you in trouble. Let me do a quick pivot because the purpose of why I do this is to reconnect and share some fun stories. And I've got a nice following here around this, and everyone knows you. So I'm glad you could join. But also, your mind is really kind of fun to sort of play around in for a second. From the standpoint of if you're starting something, how do you make it happen? How do you make it grow? And yeah, you had a couple hits, but you just had idea after idea.
Yeah, you just keep going.
But it's funny too because you always hit me up or I see you post something. You're sort of prolific in terms of your ideation, creation, as well as just putting it out there into the ether and saying, "Hey, who wants to resonate to this?" It's kind of an interesting way to market, and maybe
it's my interpretation of open source, right? So there's open source like.
Let me finish the thought because it's open source combined with almost like. Your MRD kind of research to figure out, how many people are really digging on this idea? Is it something I want to take to the next step? Or do I throw it out there and it lands and nobody catches it?
And that literally is the function of social media, right? I mean, so everyone's got different purposes. There's a reason why you do your podcast. You've got your goals and whatever. My goals are to connect and to be able to connect and continue to connect ideas together, connecting the dots. And you may believe in the mycelium mushroom layer. You might believe in Jung's river of flow. If you read the Red Book by Carl Jung, there's a lot of different collective consciousness and a lot of different ways that people deal with their spirituality and reality. And my spirituality, my reality has to do with utilizing technology to improve the world. And so I don't actually do technology to make money, right? I do it because I believe that technology improves the planet Earth. and each of us do our own contribution. And this is where the decentralized marketplaces and the decentralized web and what we call Web3 comes in.
I was going to ask about that too.
Yeah, no, and this is
A little
where
chaotic chaos with D Hawk.
and so we say open source, but there
Yeah.
are open ideas, there's open data, there's open communication. So I wrote a book in 07 and 08 called How to Build the Open Mesh. Okay. And it was a collaborative book. So you probably remember when you could make like a one-off photo album book.
Yeah.
Right, coffee table book. So what I do, first of all, I decided I didn't want my book to be filled with words. I wanted it with pictures. So I created this coffee table book. I'd print out one copy. I'd invite my friends over, and then I created a mural on my fence in my backyard.
Right.
And so I would talk about the book, discuss the ideas, spray paint or put marker pens on my thing with my friends.
Nice.
Then we would edit it, go back, do another version of the book, invite a different set of friends, and repeat the process. I did it 8 times. So I got up to draft 8. Okay. So it's a one-off blurb book that costs you $90 if you want to buy it. But
you're a publisher again.
It's called How to Build the Open Mesh. And so it was, and the cool thing about it was that it was a timestamp of 07 and 08, back when these concepts were just starting to appear. And so
Mark,
that's when I moved out of town.
I'm flashing on HyperCard.
Okay, there you go. Well, they get all the publicity, but we're the ones who built 85% of the world's multimedia. So
isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Apple was really good at hype, and it still is really good at hype, and Bill Atkinson.
Yeah.
But we're the ones that the work was actually done with.
So going back to the question, and that was a good note you share. Let's put it out there and see how the world resonates. When do you decide to take something though and go beyond concept, beyond my one pager or a visual representation? Do I decide to go to wireframe, MVP, go get funding and
prototype?
Because what's your process and how do you figure what I want to do versus what somebody else says they love the idea?
It's fucking ugly. It's ugly because it's imperfect, and this leads to the ultimate negativity of this industry, which is the money, because it's a stacked game. And through nepotism and insider stuff, and what these investors come in is they go place 10 bets on 10 startups. They only need one to hit. They write off all the losses. The losses are subtracted from the profits from their other investments. And so that's called the teens, right? So around about the time I left, all the way until the pandemic, all this money's pouring into this industry. And guess who they don't pay attention to? The old ass has-been, who was a has-been from before the web. By the time the web came along, I was already a has-been.
But you had a hit or two. I mean, you had already
so yes, during the 90s.
But they like to fund the winners.
During the 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
As pets.com and the Globe and all these ridiculous startups were being funded, these motherfuckers would come to my house. And so what I would say to them was a very simple model. Look, you can own 90% of the common share of the shares, but I control the voting. And they would turn and walk out the door.
Yeah.
They weren't interested in being a fair thing. Now, later
That's
on,
quite popular.
when Mark Pincus and Elon Musk and all these fucking Zuckerberg all said the same thing, well, they all made a determination. Well, look, at Facebook is going to be a hit. Uber is going to be a hit. So they all made a decision to let the asshole CEO be in charge. But in the 90s, that didn't happen. So nobody was willing to let me stay in charge.
The thing you're not saying, which I know you feel, is that it's who got the money too, was typically the network, the nepotism, like you said.
But those people have the right to waste their money. Who am I to say? Like Elon Musk has the right to overpay for Twitter, right? And we now know why he did that, what his intentions are.
Yeah.
And if he could truly build a $200 billion company, well, it was worth $44 billion.
Yeah,
to buy all those users.
200 billion. Do you? I mean, I know I've heard super apps and the data power of
Yeah,
beyond Twitter
everything app. Yeah.
to fund everything AI. And
I'm a very strong
L-
believer in that. I'm a very strong believer in the future of voice activated UI. That's the secret thing. Whether Elon gets it right or not, I can't guarantee.
but let me turn
Um,
to that because I have a question for that,
yeah.
which is not only just your view of AI, but from the libertarian standpoint, who wins? Is it going to be the behemoths that are Salesforce, Google, Microsoft that are already laying their bets and staking their claims and turning whole groups into, AI development and building LLM, models
Yeah.
and doing all of that? Or do I have the startup ecosystem that can rise up and really change the game and
So
be
so
amazing?
I am, since the time I wrote my book, I am a very, very strong believer in the alternative independent world, of a decentralized world. Now, this is how I evaluate decentralized technology, right? Whether it's blockchain or one of these weird crypto things, or there's a bunch of them. Okay. I
Yeah.
asked the people who are doing this decentralized standard, how do you work with other decentralized standards? Most of them are incredibly insular, and as long as you adhere to their dogma, everything's great. But very, very few of them think, well, yeah, to have a successful
Are you talking about
decentralized,
are you talking about multi-cloud API compatible across cloud stuff,
of
or what do you?
course, that's building block shit. I'm talking about, like, how does Elon's Everything app
Yes.
work with Jibo in India, with something coming out of Africa, with 4 different Russian things and 15 different European things? They're all going to be different people. The Mastodon guy is
Yeah.
sitting in a room in Germany, insisting that you do things his way. He's
Yeah.
shooting himself in the foot because
Yeah.
he refuses to be pragmatic. Okay.
Right. Right.
So for the decentralized web, okay, let me give you a practical example. I'm a person who wants to sell something. I'm on Etsy, I'm on Shopify, right? And I got to go into those walled gardens, set up my store, establish my profile, and build a catalog of products to sell, right? And when I go over to Etsy, I got to do the whole thing over again. Now, it doesn't take a genius. Me, the seller, want to have one profile, one catalog, and then I want to connect into 10 different marketplaces, right? And so
Right.
why shouldn't I be able to control all my data, and whether it's blogging or commerce or health or entertainment or whatever it is,
There are
I
yes,
I,
and there
I
are
control my data, but then there's all these decentralized things that work with me. That is ActivityPub. That is what that protocol can allow you to do.
building
It's
connect.
there. We can build on ActivityPub.
Yeah, I can write a blog post and have it on 17 different
Yeah,
platforms. This
yeah,
podcast on 10 different
yeah.
platforms, and I put
And Threads is going to support it, so it's on the way. But right now it's only from blogging.
yeah,
We need to expand it to commerce
yeah.
and other areas.
I think it will, and it's funny too. We live in a world talking about Hollywood. I mean, I have to go into all the walled gardens, and
Yeah,
slowly but surely
for
they
each
figure out
one to
these
find a
little
show.
connectors.
Yeah.
Still got to
And
log in, log
to
out.
me, it's about, I got 3 different controllers because each one does a different thing with the, so which
But then we
controller gets access to what account.
keep innovating. Got to keep connecting and connecting, and we tend to want to innovate more than connect. I think I don't know. Maybe it says
Well,
something.
okay. Now here's another thing. You asked me for some of the magic sauce.
Yeah.
Don't ever fucking use the word innovate.
Mm.
There are those who do it, and there are those who talk about it. Nobody who innovates ever uses the word innovate.
Right.
We just do what we got to do. Okay. Everyone else looks in from the outside, go, oh, I'm going to write a book about innovation and the secrets of blah, blah, blah. You're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Leave me alone and go fucking innovate yourself.
Innovate right out of the world if you want. It seemed like AI is crazy. You tell me it's going to take over the world, or it's going to kill us all, or what's going to happen.
Just another generation of tools, dude.
Yeah.
First of all, even the term AI to me means good programming, right?
Okay.
There's been neural networks around since You remember the suggestion engines it seemed like magic to us, right? And
I
so,
even a dozen companies back in the like
of
19
course,
the journalist, IntelliCorp or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. It's not going to take over. There's no such thing as Skynet or sentient beings. That's complete, utter bullshit. Okay.
Right.
Those humans that know how to control the technology, surprise, surprise. It's those humans that know how to work with AI are the ones who will have jobs. And those who want to keep their head in the sand and do it the old way, good luck.
What's your take on the regulation comments and Schumer up
Complete
on the
fallacy.
Hill?
I don't know how the fuck it's going to work.
Yeah,
Good luck.
yeah. So
As long as you have white men with their biased views controlling and writing the code, it's going to be biased.
and they're the ones who
Only till the
take all
women, the brown women, take over will it no longer be biased.
well, then there will be questions about who's writing checks to who to approve this and approve that, right? The old lobbying factor and all that.
And we're watching this whole thing dissolve in front of our eyes. Disney getting rid of ABC. Speculation that Apple's going to buy Disney. I mean, Apple has too much cash. They don't know what to do with the cash. They buy back their stock. They have a rule: we can't hold more than 200 billion in cash. So when they hit that thing, then they'd have to like give it away.
Isn't it funny they haven't made that big deal? We expect them to, but like the biggest deal they ever did was Beats, inferior headphones. I don't know.
Really bad headphones, and look, every time Apple loses, I celebrate. Okay, so what
I'm not
amazes
quite
me,
of that mind because I think the other ones you celebrate are probably just as bad.
but you wouldn't know. Most Americans wouldn't know
What do you
that
think Google
Android is
charges? And by the
80% of the
way,
market.
you used to create a box and put it on a shelf, and you paid those retailers and
Yeah,
those distributors, and there
yeah,
was payoffs all the time.
yeah.
So
No, but the average American, certainly Californian, wouldn't know that Android is 80% of the market,
yeah,
right? And that's the reality of it. So Apple has this incredible, and this is Steve Jobs' DNA. They have
yeah.
the ability to do collective distortion reality field, right? So these fanboys, it was like $125 for a charging cable. And it was only because of the Europeans forcing them by law that they go back to the USB-C, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is they're a reprehensible, evil company, and everyone loves it. Like iPhone 15. Can you tell me one thing that the iPhone 15 is?
I'm not that guy to do the product reviews and the.
I'm just telling you, there's
I,
literally nothing.
I got to
There's
go to.
nothing new in it.
Hey, by the way, I got to go to Steve Bobker or Jeff Young
Okay.
or
So you
Paul.
still talk to these guys?
I wish I did, but great memories, But
Well, I just saw Fred a couple weekends back, so
I
we're
had
still in
Fred on the
touch.
pod and we chatted. What a wonderful guy and doing cool stuff here in the city still.
Yeah.
Man. Okay,
Next
so
question.
I do. I have another question because you're such a mind bending kind of guy. You sit in the in your yogi position and studio and come up with these cool ideas. Where are we with Web3? It kind of like took off. Well, it took a while, then it took off, and then it sort of like missed the mark somehow. What
Okay,
happened?
so I'm going to give you two versions of Web3. And by the way, you use the L word.
Do I have to pick red or blue pill at the end of this, or what do
Well,
I?
you use the L word. So first, let me tell you, there are good libertarians and then there are bad libertarians. Okay, so it's the same thing with Web3.
I'm a JS Mill guy.
When
We go back.
the original version of Web3 came along,
Yeah.
it was this blockchain influenced crypto, blah, 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 NFTs. That's
Okay.
what Web3 was.
Right.
And the first thing, when I heard that, I said, fuck you.
Yeah.
You're
Overly.
not including AI. You're not including VR. You're not including Internet of Things. How dare you call that Web3? Now, as blockchain and crypto have gone down, the term Web3 is still there, but now they include AI. Now they include VR and metaverses. Now they include the creator economy.
Okay, so when you say they, who do you refer to? Who are you thinking of? Like, are you thinking of some super apps that I'm not aware of, or
No, I'm talking about the people on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, the public.
okay, okay. So is it Meta doing Web3 the way you imagine them doing it, or is it
Poor
still?
Meta.
Yeah, is it
No. First
the
of
C
all,
word?
the degree of egg on their face is so bad. Okay.
Right.
I mean, they literally changed the name of their company. Okay. So, but unlike other companies, which we won't point fingers at, they were able to, because this crazy man is in charge, they did some serious pivoting. And the moment they sensed that the whole metaverse thing was bad, you didn't hear them talking about metaverse anymore.
You have to change your name again.
But what do you think the single most significant thing that Meta has done? It's more significant than Threads. It's called the Llama LLM. Okay. Llama is important because it's just as good as ChatGPT, blah, blah, blah. But you can save data locally. Because before that, if you want to be an AI developer, you got to have terabytes and trillions of gigaflops and blah, blah, blah to do anything. So it's entirely cloud-based and extremely expensive. Yeah. Well, Llama is designed that you can, as an individual developer, store data sampling. So that's important for like what I'm working on. And so God bless Zuckerberg. And he had assembled a critical mass of AI experts, Jan LeCun, and a whole lot of fucking stuff. And they've been doing PyTorch, and they've been contributing open source all along. It was just overshadowed by the metaverse stuff. But now, all of a sudden, all that investment in AI is paying off, and they've gone completely free, completely open source, which makes OpenAI look a little greedy. And Google still, a big thing's coming, dude, within the next month is the Google Gemini stuff. And that's going to be like, boom, boom. It's like these maggots, titans.
Which they probably won't get anywhere with the antitrust.
Oh, but dude,
last Sunday,
the ramifications, look at this. My
phone. The final score was 27-20.
Things I want to talk to it. Okay, so anyway, so Llama's really important, and God bless Meta and Zuckerberg.
What can we compare Llama to in terms of our days getting started in this business? What does it replicate? Is it more like a Sun development?
No, it's everything that ChatGPT is. It's everything that all that momentum of a platform that a developer like me can build on.
Right.
But dude, do you know that fucking OpenAI was charging like $1 a query?
Oh, really?
And then they lowered it to 10 cents a query. And now, thank you so much, you fucking capitalist assholes.
Isn't that funny? The Llama's the free source, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Full circle, dude.
It's
the fact that Facebook is coming and doing that.
So it is.
How much irony is it?
Okay.
It's irony, dude. It's ironic. And so, and Llama's got Copilot, Llama's got this, Llama's got that. Llama's got everything that they have because they got the resources.
Yeah. Okay, so I got to cut. This has been fantastic, but I can't leave without knowing, what are you doing now? Where's that brain?
Okay, so two things going, and part of the curse of being so many years ahead is that I got really tired pounding my head against the wall pitching investors. So a year ago, I stopped and I put my project on hiatus, and I went off and I'm working with somebody else on what he's doing. Okay. But let me just say that my project that was for 7 years, I was working on bringing chatbots into short form media storytelling. The company is called Instigate.ai. We have a working prototype. You can go there. There are 4 explainer videos explaining what we're doing. Now, my partner, who is an AI professor up at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, 7 years ago, he told me what our version 2.0 was. And God damn it, if it isn't exactly the timing is right now. So I was spending all my time trying to convince people, yes, having AI with storytelling will be really significant. And it's going like this. Nobody knew what the fuck I was talking about. Right. But now I took a year off and is fucking pressing it right on the fucking button. Right now is the perfect time for storytelling and short form media storytelling. So without spending an hour discussing it, you talk and you tell a story, and the system creates the visuals for you, the video, the music.
Where's it pull the video from?
Dude, do you ask that of Mid-Journey? Do you ask that of Dolly? Or do you just love it?
I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but there's this other thing
I've
you
worked in
might have heard. You might have heard. Okay. The humans. So if there's one way for me to describe how our system's different than others, is that all the data is not from the outside world and blah, 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 blah. It's your data.
Got it.
So what you're doing is you're building a personal knowledge graph of your stuff, and you have to train it. This is why the Llama storing the data local is so important. You are the data producer, and you build a personal knowledge graph based upon your data. And then so that your version of storytelling is different from somebody else's. This is what happens after TikTok. Like, what comes after TikTok and Instagram, dude?
So question, is it pulling from my content or pulling from everything that I socialize with and everything I touch?
The socializing isn't important. Look, I hold up my camera. I film and take shots and make music of things that I'm interested in.
Right.
Now, it turns out the real thing you want to be able to do is mix and match, what they call remixing. So, dude, do you think I'm going to go create a UGC, user-generated platform, that makes money off the creators? Hell no. What I'm going to do is take that platform and position it as a DTC advertising platform.
Right.
So the advertisers pay money to create these ads, high production value, that the creator then can come along and grab little pieces of. I'll take a little bit of that Taco Bell ad. I'll take some of that blah, blah, blah. And then I remix that with my own shit.
Right.
It's all about remix because there has to be an editor. So like once you create something with Mid-Journey, you can't go back in and edit it. You can change the prompt and redo it a second time, but you can't go in and edit it. We have a script, a score, and that's what's available right now in the prototype that allows me to edit, just like in VideoWorks and Director.
This is very cool. I love it. I need to drop a link in my notes when I drop the podcast.
Instigate.ai.
Gosh, you and I go back. We remember when it used to be all about the bass.
Yeah.
Now it's all about the remix.
And also in restaurants, it's about location, location, location. In software, it's about timing.
Time to market. Yeah.
So, but also when is the right time when the idea hits the right market? I was having to explain myself of what I meant by AI and storytelling. Now I don't need to do that anymore.
Well, there's still a funny equation. I remember because I dealt in retail for a long time. I did Computer Retail Week, as you remember, hopefully. But that was my publishing classic. And I met with these guys from CompUSA, and there was a guy, Larry Mondry, over there, who said, why do you guys always talk about time to market? It's not how fast you get it out there. He said, it's all about time to mass. You know what a hot product is, Keith? One that sells. Now, that's a total retailer attitude, right?
Exactly.
It's true.
And you have to design things for scale. So when there's enough advertisers putting out these things that are malleable, that I can grab little bits of it, that's when that shit goes hockey stick.
Right. So where is this in its evolution?
It's still on hiatus, and I need about $500,000 to take it to the next stage, and that's about money. And you know what I decided, Keith? I'm going to wait for the investors to come to me.
Great game.
There's no fucking way I'm sucking up to some asshole.
I think you put it out there, and they'll come. But that's your style. Anyway.
It's a whole thing, dude. It's a deep psychological thing. Like you said, I've already created $1 billion company. Isn't that enough?
Yeah, I mean, manifest. It's going to happen. So.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
And then the same thing with Seth Rogen. I know that I want Seth Rogen. Maybe by the time it happens, he'll play my father or something.
I may have to go into my Hollywood sources and get this thing. And I gotta green light this. Well, it's the writer's strike, so I have to respect,
But there always going to be a room for a good story, dude. And me on stage with Bill Gates. I don't know if you were there, We introduce multimedia to the PC. That's the opening scene.
That's awesome.
But what happens is I go down off the stage. I go over to the phone and I call my wife and said, honey, I think we're successful. And she says, who authorized this $223 check? I didn't authorize this check. Blah, 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 blah. That's what my life was like.
Who flew JetBlue to New York or Redmond? Awesome. Mark, great catching up with you, man. Thanks for sharing these stories. They're awesome.
Good.
I wish you all the
Send
luck.
me a link so I can post it.
I will, brother. Thank you.
Bye-bye.